There have been a number of changes in the smelting industry in Sudbury over the years, all of which have contributed towards generally lowering sulfur dioxide emissions. There's been process changes in the industry towards more efficient practices. There's certainly been restrictions by government on the levels of sulfur dioxide that can be emitted.
The acid rain section is extremely important. It cuts U.S. Acid gas emissions, that is sulfur dioxide emissions, about in half by the year 2000 in two phases. 5 million tons of reduction by the year 1995 and another 5 million by the year 2000 for a total of 10 million. There is also, after the year 2000, a cap on the remaining emissions. That is, whatever remaining emissions are still permitted, that amount cannot increase beyond the level it's reached in the year 2000. Very important. We don't have that here in Canada. We have a control program, but we do not have a cap after the compliance date of the program, which is in 1994. The reductions are going to be achieved by limiting the amount of sulfur that various power plants can produce. There are some scientists who say to protect all sensitive ecosystems, 50% may not be enough. You may, in some cases, in some isolated regions, where there's certain particularly sensitive lakes or ecosystems, you may need more than 50% in those areas. And in order to get that, we may have to go back to some of the power plants in Ohio or wherever and say, you, and you, out of the total of 20 in a region, you have to reduce more than we told you to do in 1990. This is 10 years from now, because we know that we've modeled, we've examined your emissions, how they impact this area in Canada. We've run computer simulations. We've had some years of experience with actual reductions. We now know you guys are the bad guys, which we don't know now. We can run computer simulations, but until we actually do the reductions, we won't know exactly what the effects will be.
Drawing on some of the observations in the Sudbury area, I think really one of the key things is that based on what we've seen here, we very clearly know that emission controls work, that by controlling the emissions of acidifying substances, we can actually benefit lake waters, not just in terms of protecting them, but we can also start to recover systems that have been quite degraded in the past. So I think that's one of the key observations, that emission controls are the way to go. That's the strategy we have always wanted, and it's quite clear that it's a strategy that will work.
I agree that that the lakes in the Sudbury area are coming back, that the pH levels are going up, at least in some of the lakes. There's very good data, particularly from the Ontario Ministry of the Environment, that shows that. Yet I would caution, I would be reluctant to say, well, the lakes are going to come back and everything's going to be okay in a couple of years or even in 20 or 30 years, because I haven't seen any change in pH on Marjorie Lake, for example, which would be one of the lakes that has been the most severely hit by acidity in the area. I haven't seen any increase in pH. It's been at around 4.2 since 1982. And the other thing is that there are no fish in that lake. Now you've got this pair of loons that nests year after year on Marjorie Lake unsuccessfully. And it could very well be that the same pair of loons that is nesting on Marjorie Lake today has been nesting there for the past 10 years. And loons just are not programmed to realize that their nesting lake that they go to every year all of a sudden doesn't have fish. Even if the pH goes back up in that lake, there's no guarantee that ecosystem is going to come back.
Although public education is helping the plight of the common loon, there is still much to be done to save it and the rest of our natural environment from senseless destruction. It is clear that continued pressure on industry and the government is essential to the reduction of acid rain causing emissions. If you would like to help, contact the Canadian Coalition on Acid Rain or your local office of the Ministry of the Environment. To learn more about the common loon and to help save so valuable a natural resource, contact the Canadian Lakes Loon Survey and become a volunteer loon watcher. By sounding our voices today, we can't help but ensure our children will enjoy the cry of the common loon tomorrow.
In the summertime, when you smell the pine and the air is warm at night, we sing a song and strum a guitar all around the campfire light. As we tell our stories and sing our songs, laugh at a joke or two, out of the blue and the moonlit night comes the beautiful cry of the loon. There's a loon all alone on the lake, a loon all alone on the lake, by the light of the moon, a loon on the lake. I can't imagine a world like this, a world without the loon, a world where only people live would be a world in ruin. So grab a paddle and take a canoe out under the moon so bright, on a romantic night. There'd be nothing to write without the beautiful cry of the loon. There's a loon all alone on the lake, a loon all alone on the lake, by the light of the moon, a loon on the lake. There's a loon all alone on the lake, a loon